Welcome back to the podcast. Today we're going to get into a pretty cool one, testosterone boosting supplements that will actually have an effect on raising your testosterone levels. Very exciting stuff. But before I get in, important to note that if your lifestyle, diet, and sleep are not in check, unfortunately these supplements I'm about to go through won't have a significant impact compared to if you're already nailing your sleep, diet, lifestyle, and stress. Then you add these supplements in on top, you're going to see a pretty significant difference that can actually move the needle. So I've done podcasts breaking down each of those, sleep and diet, because those will have the most dramatic impact. So you can find those on the link in the description to get that right before you spend your money on supplements. Now, I do have a bone to pick with the testosterone boosting supplement market. They're often marketed as magical pills. They promise big things, which can lead to some pretty unhappy customers who invest in them and see absolutely no change in their testosterone levels. But in this episode, I'm going to break down which supplements are worth your time, more importantly, your money, and explain why they work and the mechanism behind it. Every supplement we'll discuss is backed by research, so if you're going to invest in supplements in an effort to boost your testosterone, you're going to know by the end of this podcast exactly what you're getting and avoid throwing your money out the window. So first we're going to go over each supplement, what it does, its mechanisms, and how it can potentially increase your testosterone. And then a supplement stack I've used in the past, putting together a few of these together that led to a 200-point increase in my own levels, which may not sound like a lot, but going from, in my case, 400 to 600, quite a notable increase. And it's important to mention that these may have absolutely no effect on you, or you may see a larger increase than I did. Just something to bear in mind. So the first supplement is zinc, a mineral involved in numerous biological processes, including what we're after, hormone production. It plays a role in regulating the enzyme aromatase, which converts testosterone into estrogen. So by making sure we have adequate zinc, we can potentially reduce this conversion, allowing your body to maintain higher levels of testosterone. Zinc also supports the function of the hypothalamus and pituitary glands, which signal the testes to produce testosterone, essentially optimizing your body's natural production pathway. However, with zinc, it's important to know that its supplementation will only boost testosterone levels if you are currently deficient. If your zinc levels are already good, adding more on top won't provide an additive effect. So only if you're currently deficient in zinc will replenishing it increase your testosterone. Next we have vitamin D, sunshine vitamin. Vitamin D is probably one of the most overrated supplements when it comes to testosterone, but at the same time it's underrated for overall health quite dramatically. So vitamin D plays a role in a lot of important processes in the body, including bone health, immune function, and yes, hormonal balance for sure. Now, the same situation with zinc, if you're deficient in vitamin D, and a wild statistic shows that about 70% of people actually might be, which is completely nuts, but makes complete sense based on how the majority of people live. That deficiency can actually negatively impact your testosterone levels. So, studies have shown that correcting a deficiency can give you a bump in testosterone around 50 nanograms per deciliter in some cases, which is pretty solid. But again, same thing with zinc. If your vitamin D levels are already fine, if you're within range, taking more won't do much for your testosterone. This is why I'd recommend getting your levels checked before jumping on a supplement. Also, I'd recommend getting your blood work done anyway, just to see where your hormones are at. Even if you need to increase them, you may even be at the top of the reference range right now. So if you're deficient, supplementing with vitamin D or just getting more sunlight, around 15 to 30 minutes of direct sun exposure per day can make a notable difference, not just in testosterone, but also in your energy and mood as well, and immune health. But if your levels are solid, you're better off focusing on the following supplements we're about to get into. But in short, vitamin D, very worthwhile looking into, especially if you're someone who doesn't get much sun or lives in a colder climate, because correcting a deficiency in vitamin D can help you optimize your testosterone, but don't expect it to be a game changer if your levels are already fine. Next supplement on the list is magnesium, which plays a big role in supporting testosterone production because of its involvement in over 300 enzymatic reactions that facilitate hormone synthesis and a ton of other things like helping to convert cholesterol into testosterone. It also reduces oxidative stress and helps regulate SHBG, which is sex hormone binding globulin, meaning it can directly increase the amount of free testosterone available for your body to use, similar to boron, which we'll get into. But It's not going to shoot up your levels on its own, but if you're deficient, like the previous minerals we spoke about, getting a theme here, magnesium will make a notable difference in how efficiently your body produces and utilizes testosterone. Next, we have Tongkat Ali, one of the most popular supplements now in the testosterone boosting, let's say, world. Gets a lot of hype for sure. You've probably seen many people talk about it, many supplement companies. Probably heard Huberman talk about it, along with many others, and that's because it does work. The primary mechanism behind Tongkat Ali revolves around its impact on enzymes that are responsible for converting the precursor hormones into testosterone. So essentially, it helps your body optimize its natural testosterone production without messing with the brain signaling or the pituitary gland. Instead, it acts directly on the testes, encouraging them to produce some more testosterone. But Tongkat Ali doesn't work for everyone. For it to be effective, you need to have adequate signaling between your brain and your testicles. So your hormonal system, if it's already functioning well, Tongkat Ali might very well give you an increase in testosterone, but it can be anywhere from not much, to quite a bit in some scenarios. But as with any supplement, there are some downsides, and the phrase "the dose makes the poison" applies pretty perfectly here. It has been linked to potential liver toxicity, especially at higher dosages. So if you decide to use it, make sure you're sticking with the recommended dose and monitor your liver health through blood work if you're using it for a long period of time. And that goes with any one of these supplements. If you're going to implement it, to get your blood work done first, so you have baseline, implement it. Not really for the vitamins, you don't really do well. Actually, vitamin D 100%. Implement it and then see what happens, let's say 3-4 months later with your blood work. So Tongkat Ali, for the majority of people, is something that can be very useful for boosting testosterone, but I wouldn't be too reckless with it because your liver will not be having it. Next, we have boron. So this trace mineral found in pretty high in foods like almonds, dates, raisins, especially if they're grown in places with good soil, which unfortunately nowadays we're not really getting that anymore due to modern day farming practices and soil degradation. So a lot of the soil we rely on is depleted, so you might not be getting as much boron as you actually think. Now, what's cool about boron is how it interacts with SHBG. Like I said before, SHBG stands for sex hormone binding globulin, and it's basically a protein in your blood that binds to sex hormones like testosterone and estrogen. So when SHBG grabs onto testosterone, it kind of locks it up. So it bounds testosterone. And this bound testosterone can't be used by your body. So think of it like, what's a good example? Having physical money locked in the bank, like your actual cash locked in the bank vault. You know the money's there, but you can't use it unless you go and actively get it, open up the vault, get the key, yada yada. The testosterone that isn't bound to SHBG is called your free testosterone. And that's the type your body can actually use to build muscle, burn fat, boost mood, energy levels, etc. And free testosterone is what really matters when we talk about optimizing testosterone in some regard. So SHBG binds to your testosterone, it locks it up. It's like you put cash in the vault, locking that money up so your body can't use it. Now, what boron does is it temporarily lowers SHBG, so you could freeing up more testosterone, which is why you might see a bump in your free testosterone levels. I think whose podcast was I watching quite recently? Chris Williamson's podcast, big fan. Shout out. Maybe one day, yeah. And don't quote me on this, but I think he took his testosterone to like 1,000 nanogram per deciliter by supplementing with boron, amongst other things, I'm sure. But if your SHBG levels are in a good spot, adding boron isn't going to do much. Now, if you got higher levels of SHBG, or if you suspect you're low on boron, which could be the case if your diet isn't heavy in boron-rich foods, which is why I'd always say track your food with Chronometer, the app. Super good app. You can see your micronutrient profile because all of those will hold down your testosterone. Then you could supplement, backfill accordingly once you've done that. So it can be a good addition to your testosterone boosting stack. And boron is pretty super low risk, but the effects are temporary, around 2-4 weeks max. That's why some people cycle it in and out, seeing if it makes a difference. If it does, great. If not any harm done. So it's not going to work for everyone, but for the right person, it can unlock, take some money out that bank vault, a bit more of your testosterone, and then it's going to be free testosterone, which can be incredibly ideal. Next one on the list, we have Fadogia Agrestis, which is a plant-based supplement, but I would say it's a very niche option that's not ideal for everyone. One, because of the limited data on it, and two, because most of the evidence comes from animal studies. And in these studies, it appears that Fadogia may help stimulate testosterone production, but there really isn't enough reliable human data to say whether or not it will consistently work. So if you have the extra cash, you could throw at it, but not going to move the needle as much as the ones we spoke about. It doesn't have the research behind it like the ones we spoke about. And there's also a red flag with it, which is the potential for testicular toxicity, which means that in theory could harm your testicles, impacting semen production and overall function. So if you want to run that line, even though it hasn't been confirmed in humans, the risk is enough for me personally not to use it. And that doesn't really capture the underlying oxidative stress that could be occurring as well, which is why if Fadogia is ever used, pairing it with antioxidants would be a good idea to help mitigate these potential effects like glutathione, vitamin C, vitamin E. But Fadogia agrestis has some use cases, but the lack of solid human data and the potential risks make it a supplement on this list, in this podcast at least. You should probably do your own research approach carefully. If you have the extra finances for it, if you deem the risk is okay, then you can make that decision for yourself. But not a pick of mine when you compare it to the rest of the supplements we have on this list. Like this next one, Ashwagandha, specifically KSM 66. Now, ashwagandha can mean a lot of different things because there's so many different extracts and blends out there. Some are just random blends with no real research behind them, but KSM 66 specifically is a clinically studied standardized extract. That's the one I would go with if you're going to buy ashwagandha because it's reliable. We actually have some data on how it works. So if you're going to buy ashwagandha, KSM 66. Now, when it comes to testosterone, KSM 66 has a couple studies. It can improve testosterone levels. Not like most of the supplements on this list. It's not going to work for everyone, but it does seem to help in certain cases. What makes ashwagandha interesting is that it acts more like a testicular antioxidant, which can protect your testicles from potential oxidative stress and improve their function. This means it could indirectly help with testosterone production, but where ashwagandha really shines is with its action on cortisol, your body's primary stress hormone. If your cortisol is high, it suppresses testosterone. So ashwagandha helps modulate, bring cortisol down, which is why it works so well for testosterone. Bring down cortisol, so then testosterone can come up. So overall, ashwagandha, specifically KSM 66, is a fantastic option to try and improve your testosterone levels via its action on cortisol. And lastly, we have Shilajit. Is a bit of an interesting one. It's not your typical testosterone boosting supplement with a well understood mechanism of action. Instead, it's more like a multi-mineral supplement with some promising data behind it because it works more indirectly, possibly by reducing inflammation or improving nutrient delivery due to its multi-mineral content. It's less of a direct testosterone booster and more as a supplement that kind of supports your overall health, which might in turn create a better environment for optimal hormone production, which I guess we could say for any vitamin and mineral on the list if you're deficient. So if your diet is lacking polyphenols, antioxidants, or trace minerals, Shilajit could be a very worthwhile supplement along with fixing that. So you're getting your diet right, where you can optimize your diet. Link in the description for the podcast on how to optimize your diet. So it's not going to directly increase your testosterone, but it might be helpful as part of the broader health, let's say, optimization strategy, which will then lead to optimal hormone production. So if you're already eating, let's say, a nutrient-dense diet, whole food diet, the impact of Shilajit might not be as significant. However, it's worth noting that in one study, it increased testosterone levels up to 800 nanograms per deciliter, which is quite substantial. So something to keep in mind. Now, for the ultimate natural testosterone boosting stack, we have the following supplements. Starting off with ashwagandha, KSM 66, to bring down cortisol, which helps to create a hormonal environment for more favorable testosterone production. Then we have Tongkat Ali, free up testosterone bound by SHBG, increase the bioavailability of testosterone in your system, and enhance the signaling between the brain and the testes by supporting the release of luteinizing hormone, which signals the testes to produce testosterone. Then we have this one. You can kind of swap this one out if you want to, but then we have Fadogia Agrestis, which stimulates, again, LH, signaling luteinizing hormone, signaling the testes to produce more testosterone. Obviously, we got the addition of boron to bring down SHBG levels if your levels are high, which will free up more testosterone. We have vitamin C in there to support adrenal health, which is very important for balanced hormone production, as well as antioxidant status and many other things. Vitamin D3, because it plays a direct role in hormone production and can increase testosterone levels if you're deficient. We got vitamin E to protect the testes and kind of mitigate the oxidative stress. Magnesium to support enzymatic reactions involved in testosterone synthesis and helps regulate SHBG as well. Zinc, because it's essential for testosterone production, especially if you're deficient, like vitamin D, like magnesium. Selenium, because it acts as an antioxidant, which again protects the testes and helps with testosterone synthesis in some regard. Then we have taurine, because it may improve Leydig cell function, which are the cells responsible for testosterone production. And then lastly, I wanted to throw this one in there, L-carnitine, oral or injectable, because it may boost mitochondrial function, which is crucial for testosterone production at the cellular level. So if you're going to go with L-carnitine, I'd definitely go injectable if you're comfortable with that over oral, just because the oral bioavailability is quite poor. So that is a wrap on today's podcast. Probably one of the most well-rounded testosterone boosting supplement stacks based on the current research, what we have available, and my knowledge on it. So if you're going to give it a try, like I said a couple times in this podcast, I would do your blood work. It may have a substantial effect on your testosterone, or it may have no effect at all. Honestly, it's going to depend on your start point and largely your lifestyle, stress, sleep, diet. Again, what will move the needle is the most is optimizing diet, sleep, and lifestyle. So if you want to do that, I'll link those podcasts below. And if you want daily tips sent straight to your inbox, you can check the link in the description for my 30-day email series, which will help you optimize your health, transform your physique, energy, recovery, supplementation, and much more. Peace.